Hi, thank you so much. It is amazing to think of where I was 13 years ago and where I am today. And I wanted to do a video on this because I get reached out to a lot from people who are in similar situations to what I was in. And a lot of them feel like I did, like there's no hope and that they're stuck. And even if somebody's future looks different than mine, not everybody is trans, not everyone's going to transition. I hope at the very least by watching this, people understand that they deserve basic human decency and freedom. So 13 years ago, I was in a heinous relationship. It was extremely dangerous. Cops were always involved. I faced losing custody of my son. I faced losing my own life several times. And I just felt like there was no way out. But I want to discuss why a lot of victims have trouble leaving from the point of view of someone who has been in that scenario. Obviously, if somebody's in a DV situation from the outside looking in, it seems pretty rational that you just remove yourself from the situation, but the cycle is not rational. Number one, I stayed because of guilt. I had not always been perfect when my ex and I had first got together. Like, I had done a lot of toxic things, and I would tell myself, well, if I could change, he could change. Like why shouldn't I give him a chance? Like, he stayed with me so I could change. I would say, but he's mentally ill, he needs to find the right medication, the right type of treatment. It's not his fault. Number two, fear. Okay, so I tell the cops the truth. They were there all the time. Say I said, yeah, you know what? He did assault me. I want you to press charges. Well, I did that before. He'd be bailed out the same night. He knew where I lived. A restraining order? Please. People who have nothing to lose do not care about a piece of paper. And I'm not negating my part in consistently going back, because even if all those things did happen the right way, I still would have went back. Which leads me to the next topic I want to talk about that a lot of people don't like to discuss because it's a little bit taboo. Unfortunately, toxic situations like that, as dangerous as they are, they can be exciting. Should they be? Absolutely not. They are not healthy. They are not safe. But our brains mistake that for passion and excitement, all of these things that are just a mirage. After I got out of that situation, I actually had to really retrain myself to be in a healthy relationship and learn that somebody being controlling is not love. Somebody being irrationally jealous is not love. Another reason why a lot of people don't leave, the gaslighting. They make you think that you're the one who's crazy. There were times that I literally convinced myself that certain attacks did not happen. That's crazy. I remember when I was in that situation, I would always pray at night once I went back, and I'd say, God, I didn't have the strength to leave this time. I'm really sorry, but please help him do right. I promise if he does it again, I'm gonna leave. And at my lowest point right before I left, so I guess in a way it was my highest point, I remember I was about to do that. I had just taken him back again, and I was going to pray, and I was going to, say, I'm sorry, God, and do my spiel. I said, don't bother. It's not worth it. I know I'll take him back. I'm never going to leave. I'm stuck here. I'm never going to leave. There's no point. I felt so defeated. Constantly, I was hearing stuff like, nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to believe you. Everybody knows you're mentally ill. Nobody takes you seriously. And I knew that I had gotten myself and my son, an innocent being, into this situation. I knew that this was a dangerous person. And not only did I choose to cohabitate with them, but I also chose to have a child with them. This was my fault. Nobody was going to empathize with me. That's how I felt, and that's a big part of why I stayed. But after a while, I just started doing little things, just in case I happened to get the strength one day. A big thing I did was I started moving important documents back to my family's house, this house. Anything with private information, regarding me, my son, stuff like that, medical records, as well as things like some clothes. And when he would say, well, why are you doing that? Why are you getting rid of this stuff? To make it sound convincing, I'd just say, oh my God, since having the baby, it's so cluttered around here. We gotta get rid of some of this stuff, but I don't want to throw it away. It's so important. And fortunately, he bought it. I know that this sounds awful, but at this point, I knew how the legal system worked. And I knew that I had to incite an attack on me in order to protect my son and I. That was the only way the cops would take me seriously. They had been in and out of there so many times, they were fed up. And partially, I don't blame them, but also it's your fucking job. He had coerced me into signing a piece of paper that was addressing the judge. This is when he pled guilty before to assaulting me. And I said, I made everything up. He really never assaulted me, blah, 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 stuff like that. And I signed it and I gave it to him. And people are going to be like, why would you ever do that? I could go into a big spiel about why I signed that letter, but just trust me, it's not really uncommon for victims. Anyways, during this day when I finally decided to leave, he got the paper and he started reading it out loud to taunt me, like, you can't do anything now. Look at what I have. You can't leave. And I knew that if I ripped that paper out of his hand, it was going to be bad. So I did. I ripped it right out of his hand, and of course, he attacked me. He tried to make it so that I couldn't leave the house. He had his family members stand in front of the windows and doors. I stole somebody's phone. I started running. I called 911, and so they ended up fleeing because they knew the cops were coming, and I was able to go home with my son. This home. Now, when I finally left, I knew that I had to take action not to go back because I knew from being in the cycle for so long, it was only a matter of time before I wanted to go back again. I know, you're saying, why would you want to go back to that? Like I said, the cycle is irrational. Your mind is completely warped. What I did is I started recording every attack that I remembered and I started writing down the emotions that I felt in those moments. The reason I did this is because a part of the cycle is looking at things through like rose colored glasses, things are like, in hindsight, they don't seem that bad. You start thinking of their good qualities, you start thinking of why you wanted to stay with them, and those cloud everything else. So I just started writing down raw emotions of how I felt, how embarrassed, how humiliated, how it was seeing my dad's face when he would watch me go back into this relationship where he knew he taught me better than that. I would write down all those emotions, and whenever I felt the guilt, whenever I felt the fear, whenever I felt weak, I would read those and they helped so much. Today it's 2025. My ex is deceased. I have a husband who has been raising my son since he was 5 years old. He's a fantastic husband, a great father. He treats me so well that I joke. I'm always like, oh my God, you act like I'm a god. Like, you treat me like I'm a god. But really, I just think he treats me as a human being that he loves. And if somebody is watching this in a similar situation that I was in, you deserve that too.